Okay, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. I have a really cool review for you guys from the brand Milifortic. A little bit about them. Their name brand breaks down to Mili for military and Fortic from fortitude. They're an enthusiast-founded factory brand focused on providing high-value vintage-inspired homage watches. They're also a sister brand to Baltony, and within that same line, of course, have been really focused, again, on offering you those high-value, high-quality heavy hitters for much lighter price tags. Now, in terms of the type of watch, this is a pilot's watch, some key characteristics and design language you're looking for a pilot's watch. Of course, you're going to find that balance of both legibility and functionality. This is their 39mm Sporty Pilot automatic watch with the nomenclature of S093. And it's a very clear homage to the Sinn 556 cockpit instrument gauge inspired pilot's watch. These go for $129 direct, and this sample was kindly provided by Milifortic for the purposes of this review. Now, some people are very anti-homage. Some people are very pro. Some people literally only collect homage watches. And there are some people that only collect tool watches and sports watches. So everybody has different tastes and different points in their journey. So I do like to feature a wide array of watches, whether they be more entry level or more top tier. I will say Milifortic did something different with this particular color combination as the previous owner of a Sinn 556 A, which is for the Arabic numerals with the matte black dial, and the Sinn 556 IB with that blue sunray dial and applied baton indices. So this actually combines both of those, and it's a layout that I've wanted to see from Sinn for a very long time, and here it is from from an homage brand. So I like that they're doing something different. They're thinking outside of the box and offering you something that you can't get from the original watch. So hey, here we go. It's already justifying its existence, and then you add into the fact that it's going to be a lot cheaper for a watch that is very stripped down. At the end of the day, that is meant to be a very useful tool watch, which this absolutely is. So with all that said, let's go and zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Ooh, okay, so of course, if you are not a fan of pilot's watches, or wrist watches in general, and this just caught your eyes and you're clicking in, you're probably going to notice that this is pretty cool looking. Of course, this is a bit of a derivative design, like I mentioned, really made famous by brands like Sinn, as well as brands like Bell & Ross. So this type of layout where essentially the watch dial is going to be very reminiscent of a cockpit instrument gauge face is something that is kind of in a genre within itself, and a real standout within that space is Sinn. Their 556 is kind of their reverse halo model in that it is more affordable than some of their more higher tier options, but it has that signature design aesthetic. Now, this signature design aesthetic is tweaked here quite a bit because you're now combining the beautiful Arabic numeral style, which is very industrial, of course, and then you're adding that sunray blue dial behind it, and man, I gotta say, it really pops. And I think they did a great job even with the color pairing for this strap. Like this, to me, I mean, I'm typically somebody that's very big on throw it on an aftermarket strap pretty immediately. This is a decent quality little strap for a watch that only costs $129. Like, that is impressive. I mean, look at the extra stitch there. It just comes together, very stylized. Of course, you're getting fully milled pin buckle. Even the finger is milled. You're getting it nicely signed as well. Signed crown, screw down crown. I mean, there's a lot of niceties here. You're getting, of course, a sapphire crystal, which is fantastic. But getting into the diameter and everything, 39 millimeters in diameter, which is a real sweet spot for a watch like this, as well as having an 11.7 millimeter thickness. I'll say the mid case looks like it might be a bit thicker than an actual Sinn 556, but thanks to this sealed case back, it might actually be a lot closer in measurements just because they saved so much by making it a non-display back there, so that this is a much trimmer feel when it comes onto the wrist. So I will say, hey, kudos to Milifortic for, choosing to say, hey, look, nobody's going to get excited about the movement that's in here. It's a Seiko movement. It's not too much to look at, but it does the job. One of the things that it's doing special here that Sinn hasn't done is giving you a no date movement. Typically, these dials are going to have a date either at the 3 o'clock or at the 4.5. That's very small and hard to find and hard to read, but most people kind of like it because it's giving you a semi no date type of look. But if you really want to look for the date, you can find it in a non-obtrusive way. Now, nice thing here is you're going to have an actual no date movement in the Seiko Instruments NH38, which is going to beat at 41. I'm sorry. It's going to beat at 3 hertz and have a beat rate of 21,600 vibrations per hour. So decently smooth sweep. And in terms of the power reserve, that's 41 hours, which isn't too shabby. Not quite 2 days, but a good amount over 1 day. Now, the bezel is nicely brushed. It is fixed. It's not a turning bezel. And the crown is nicely signed, and it is a screw down crown. It does have also very nice and of course quite reminiscent of the crown guards that you would find on a Sinn 556. Now, the case back is solid and sterile and screw in, so it sits quite nicely on the wrist, which we'll get to. And you can see the silhouette is also quite nice with a nice turn down on the lugs without adding too much curvature there. I think this looks very, very clean and very well executed. And when it comes to this sapphire, you can see, I think I have this listed as a flat, but it actually is a very mild dome, and it looks like a double dome because when I have it at an angle, you'll notice that it doesn't distort heavily. So that just means that it's going to have the curvature on the outside as well as on the underside. And a lot of times when you have a single dome, it's going to look good straight on, but once you start having it at an angle, you're going to see a lot of distortion here. It's still very legible, which does tie in, of course, to the more functional roots of this pilot watch design. Now, the dial itself is a beautiful blue sunray dial. It does have a printed index, as well as a painted handset, as you guys can see here, painted black, of course, with a nice red tip. The lume on here is going to be Swiss Superlunova BGW9, and the nice thing about the screw down crown and the screw down solid case back is that it does offer you a confidence inspiring 100 meters or 10 bar of water resistance. So this is a watch that you can get submerged and really get dirty and clean by just, rinsing it off. So that's very nice to have. Now, also another thing that's a bit of a magic feature of this is that it's using a 20 millimeter lug width, which is fantastic. So if you're not crazy about the strap option, you can absolutely put this on an aftermarket strap and it's gonna look great. So this strap here, it's marked as genuine leather. Nothing special from that standpoint, but I will say it's quite supple and quite well finished. Look at the finished edge there, nothing raw. You can see nice and supple texturing. The thickness isn't too bad, and again, it's just doesn't feel cheap, which is nice, and it does feel like leather. Not the most expensive leather, but definitely not the cheapest. And at this price point, you would think at about $129 that they would probably opt for the cheapest leather strap possible, and they didn't. So I appreciate that. One thing that would have been nice is if they would have done drilled lugs as well as, both would have been even better, or they could have done, a quick release strap would have been nice. But you can still live without that. And honestly, you can put this on a quick release aftermarket strap if you really, really want to. So yeah, this is a cool looking watch, but it does look like an existing very cool looking watch, just at a fraction of the cost. So with that said, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7.5 inch wrist, this wears really, really well. Now, I know 7.5 inches is on the larger side of average, but I'll also note that you guys can see it's quite a tall and round wrist, so it's not like it's super wide, flat, and accommodating. Now, if I get my wrist a bit closer to the camera, you're going to notice something. There's quite a bit of perspective distortion. It makes the watch seem all of a sudden quite large, and the sides of the straps all of a sudden are less visible. So what I'll do is keep my wrist nice and low, and you guys can see all of a sudden, again, now it looks more centered and you're seeing more of the side of the strap. Hey, look at that. And it somehow looks more manageable on the wrist. So I'll leave my wrist there and then just tighten up the frame here so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a true aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. And you guys can see this does a fantastic job of just being this unobtrusive, unsuspecting tool watch. And if you're not into watches, this is still going to look like a cool looking watch. And if you're just into, nice men's accessories, this is still going to be quite nice. And then, of course, if you're into watches, there is a certain space for enthusiasts who do enjoy a good homage. And that's not to say that, it's going to get you the same flex appeal as an actual Sinn. But, the sentiment around Sinn is that it kind of is past its value prime, and it's become more and more within that range for folks that really want a Sinn versus really want a value. So with that, it's transitioning, and there's more enthusiasm towards the Sinn brand, which is great as they're building their legacy and heritage. But it does leave a space open for more folks to supply people with, just kind of that more primal idea of a Sinn in terms of just achieving that aesthetic, having the specs when it comes to a screw down crown, a sapphire crystal with an anti-reflective coating, etc. Right? Just checking all of those boxes from a functional standpoint, but not feeling the need to upcharge based off of a historical significance standpoint. And I'm a big collector myself, and that's how I justify owning Grand Seiko and some pretty expensive Seiko Pro Specs or King Seikos, and some neo vintage models and some neo vintage Omega watches, right? Like there's certain things that I do have to find myself justifying. The nice thing here is this is a watch you don't really have to justify. It's so cheap and so capable that it kind of speaks for itself. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand. Actually, no, let's get it off the wrist, set up for some Lume Shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey! Look at that. Now, a pilot's watch, it doesn't necessarily need a ton of lume like you would think of when you're trying to buy a dive watch. But when it comes to this crossing over into that everyday adventure watch space, having powerful lume like this speaks volumes, especially considering that the original Sinn 556 is not known for great lume. It's actually known for having subpar lume. So having something like this definitely is right within that vein of one of the reasons why people love homage watches so much, because they do try to cram in as much value and try to, fix things about those original models, right? Quote unquote fix by, doing things like adding other colorways and combining other details, as well as, again, giving you something that is going to offer you that extra bonus of functionality. Now, again, you're not going to get the flex appeal. You're not going to get the heritage. You're not going to get the story of Helmet Sinn, but you will get a watch like this that you can wear, and if you're flying and you're in a darkened cockpit, great, you can see it. But if you're just a lume junkie and a watch idiot savant like myself, then you're going to have something you can really, really just enjoy on or off the wrist, and you can kind of geek out with for not a whole lot of money. One thing I do like to work in is going to be that low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice with these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And as you guys can see here, hey, just like you would expect, that satinized case just feels like a purpose-built tool watch. And then when it comes to that dial, talk about contrast and legibility. It's all there for you, and it doesn't wash out. Look at that. Even if I try to, it's still, because of how thickly everything is applied, you're still going to get a nice amount of legibility. You're getting just that little strip of indigo blue over, essentially a midnight blue, almost black color. And I mean, for me as a Marine, right, United States Marine Corps alumni, I will say this does remind me a bit of my dress blues, right? We got the blue pants with the black jacket, the red blood stripe. It is something that comes together and it just has a military vibe to it. So this really resonates extra well for me. And I just, it'd be nice if Sinn put out something like this, but I just know that if they did, it would cost $1,800. So it's nice to be able to flirt around and play with a concept like this at a much cheaper point of entry, especially considering that the watch ultimately is really meant to be a tool. So that is one of the nice things. And don't get me wrong, there are some beautiful tool watches you can buy, especially within the pilot's watch space, whether it be a Breitling or even I guess if I wanted to stay within the range of pilot's watches, an IWC, beautifully executed to the highest levels of at least production, mainstream production, fit and finish. You can get some great tool watches, right? You think about Rolex. I mean, they're not cheap if you were to get, an Air King. But the nice thing is this is going to have a similar mission statement, similar skill set, but just, again, without all the bells and whistles and all the extra niceties and, extra technologies that you might never use. So with that said, let's go ahead, get these lights back on here and get into some closing thoughts. So on the wrist, very classic proportions. It wears just as well as you'd expect from any piece in this dialed in 39mm scale. Now, in terms of model variants, this is also available in a black dial variant, matte black. It's still going to have the nice accents and pops of color like the red that you're going to see here. You could definitely check the site links for current options and availability, as by the time I post this, who knows, things could change. And not only by the time I post it, but by the time you watch this, you might watch this video 2-3 years from when I originally released it. So why not follow those links and see what other options they've come up with. Now, in terms of comparable models, guys, as per the usual, Milifortic are just undercutting the competition by such a fair margin, while also offering an impressive level of fit and finish that can more than hold its own against watches costing 2 and 3 times as much. Again, guys, this is a watch that's under $150. It's technically under $130 at $129. So for me, guys, bottom line, at just $129, this classy and well-executed Sinn 556 Homage will scratch the itch for many a watch enthusiast who could never justify paying so much for such a stripped-down tool watch, or it could also easily serve as a placeholder to gauge real-world wearability before committing to the genuine article. So maybe you've been saving up for a Sinn 556 and that's your attainable grail, and you want to make sure that if you buy one, you're going to wear it. You're not just going to enjoy it sitting in your watch box or, on a little display somewhere, on your desk or nightstand. You're going to want to make sure that it's a watch that you're going to be prone to wear and grab. And at this price point, I feel like you can absolutely figure that out. So I think that's awesome. So with so many micro brands releasing great everyday adventure style watches recently, the market is more popular than ever. So if you're someone who doesn't care much for branding or storytelling and just love the general look and the idea of the 556, this little Milifortic might be just what you've been looking for. But let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do a like. And if you're not already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.